So we are going to start without any delay. We are going to start with our session on developing creativity. I hope my PowerPoint presentation is also available.
Visible, Aman ma'am.
Thank you. So when it comes to understand the concept of creativity specifically in terms of student population, first we need to know what we mean by creativity. And in engineering context, when it comes to the development of creativity, how it is possible for a teacher to use variety of techniques so that we over the period of time gradually we can improve upon the thinking ability of the student. So when it comes to creativity, it is basically a mental process which involving the generation of new ideas or concept or new association of the creative mind between existing ideas and the concept. So when it comes to a creativity, a very simple definition that is known by all of us is it is the act of making something new. But as far as our student population is concerned, if they are doing something in their life for the very first time, say for example, in their first semester, if you have assigned one project to the students, and student after understanding the whole concept, if he or she is able to complete that project on time, it means that particular student is creating something new for the very first time. So that student is able to make association and relationship between various variables available with him for that project identification or for that problem defining or for implementation of that methodology he or she defined, maybe individually, maybe in a team. So when we said creativity, creativity means if my student is able to do something new, maybe it is a small idea that is generated by my student in a class, or student is able to complete an assignment that is very much new for that particular candidate, I consider that up to some extent I'm able to develop creative ability among my student. When it comes to innovation, innovation is the business evaluation of the creativity. So it is about creating values and increasing efficiency and therefore growing business. The idea that can convert it into a profitable business is considered as an innovative idea. So once the student are able to think creatively, they are able to generate ideas, they are able to validate their idea and then implement those ideas into something useful. That may be the innovation the student is able to do over the period of time. Specifically, when it comes to the creativity in engineering, if my student is able to challenge the different assumption, if the student is able to think out of the box, if he or she is able to recognize different pattern and able to see the different connection in that particular while dealing with the problem, that student is able to take different risk and able to identify n number of solutions for a given problem, we consider that we are able to develop creativity in our technical education system and specifically in our technical students also. So students are every time when we talk about creativity, it is not like that every time the individual student or group of the students at your institute are going to design something new, they are going to give any new product to the society. If they are able to perform the activities very first time as per the specification and other parameters given by the faculty, it means students are able to do something more creatively by the training provided by the institute. So if they are able to take risk, if they are able to challenge the different boundaries and able to recognize different association and relationship between the variables of the problem, the students are able to do creative things. Along with the creativity and innovation, there is a third term that we need to have information about, that is serendipity. So when I said serendipity, these are the fortunate discoveries. In our science, there are many discoveries that are happened over the period of time and considered as the pleasant surprises. And this particular term is coined by Horace Walpole in 1754. Say, for example, the discovery of the Quaker oats, the microwave, the penicillin, benzene ring. These are all the fortunate happenstance. But when we said the pleasant discovery or fortunate discovery, it is not happen in a day or maybe after working for that particular problem 1 week or 2 week. the individuals who are able to identify such kind of discoveries over in our past, they are constantly working in that field of specialization. They are able to collect information related to the concepts of that specialization. They are constantly thinking about the problem. They're constantly finding the solutions from their surrounding, and once those solutions are available, once those things are observable, those individuals are able to identify quickly and consider them as a fortunate discoveries. So when it comes to the creativity, basically creativity is divided into four different parameters. One is creativity can be in terms of the product, creativity can be in terms of environment, creativity, the personality, and the process of creativity. So one by one, we are going to define all these classification. When it comes to the product, we consider a product as creative if it focus on tangible, that is very new, useful, original, and surprising. So any product that is produced, it may be useful for a sector of society. In that particular case, we consider that product as a useful product. So when the students are working on their project, maybe the mini project or the major project that is assigned by the teacher need to consider that what are the outcomes of this particular project. So when we are defining writing learning outcome for the project based activity, the first major learning outcome the teacher need to think upon, that after the completion of this particular project, what will be the outcome? Is it only the PowerPoint presentation? Is it only the project report? Is it the prototype model that my students are going to create? Or is it a new product that we are going to give to the society? So if the product is able to solve the problem of the society, that product can also be considered as a creative product. Say, for example, butter. This particular product is designed by the Yonkyun South Korea University by first year biotech student. He said, whenever we eat bread at the picnic, in the cafe, or in airplane, we usually use disposable butter. I replaced its ordinary container lid with a wooden knife shaped one. This way, the butter can easily and quickly spread. Butter has four flavors which allow the user to make a choice, just as he would choose his favorite ice cream. This container is not only easy and fast to use, but also it make daily routine of spreading butter more fun and more exciting. Now see, when the student is working on that particular project, the student is able to identify the problem from the surrounding environment. Along with it, the keen observation of the student help him to define the different dimensions of the problem. So he not only worked on the container packaging and the wooden knife that he provided, but at the same time he added flavor to that particular product so that the population have different kind of flavors available with them. So, and moreover, when it comes to the container is made of its ordinary container lid is made of with a wooden knife shaped one. So packaging cost of that particular material along with the packaging disposal is also going to be decreased if this product is acceptable by the society. So in this particular case, we can easily see that when it comes to creativity as a product, one need to observe the surrounding environment. The student must be able to know what is happening all around, maybe in the local community, maybe in that particular region, maybe in industry. So after observing that particular phenomena, student is able to identify the problem. And if the student is able to, with the help of the supervisor, maybe if the student is able to define the different dimensions of the problem at hand, student along with the faculty can give sustainable solutions to the problems. So when it comes to defining a product in terms of creativity, as per the level of the student, we need to consider the mastery of the student. Say, when I am evaluating that project work, I need to consider what level of students are performing that activity, and if that level of student is performing that activity up to the level of excellence, I consider that student population as a creative population. So this example is from the graduation level student. If the student is at diploma level institute or maybe at school level institute, accordingly we need to consider that problem may be smaller by nature, but if the student is able to give an accurate solution to the problem, that is very new act for the student to perform for the very first time in his or her life, so that student is also comes under the category of a creative student. So my point of discussion is creativity in terms of student population is always described as per the level of the student. So for first year student, the creative ability may be different. For the final year student, the evaluation of the creative ability may be different, depending upon, creativity depends upon what kind of environment we are going to give to our students. So it totally depends upon what kind of environment that we are going to give to our student. So environment means the kind of surroundings encourage or restrict creativity. So when I said the kind of surrounding that encourage or restrict creativity, what kind of classroom environment or what kind of environment in other laboratory practices or other areas of institution that we are providing to our student. So if we want to develop creative ability among student population, the first thing that we need to consider in a classroom environment is allow your students to ask question. Not only ask question, but at the same time allow your students to frame solutions for the problems also. So sometimes the teacher is the teacher in the class ask few questions to the student, and sometimes the teacher is just delivering the explanation of that particular content. If my classes are full of why and how questions and my students are in the process of identifying answers to those particular statement, I'm not only developing engagement level or curiosity among my student, but at the same time I'm developing thinking of my students. So the very first technique or the very first environment in which the creative potential can be enhanced is the classes must be full of questions. The second type of environment that can encourage creativity, specifically in a classroom environment, when we allow our students to talk about the content matter. So maybe a discussion based class is organized by a teacher, maybe in a team, in a group, we divide our class student, give one unique activity to them to solve upon. So once they interact with each other, discuss about the content matter, their creative ability can be enhanced. The third kind of environment that can encourage creativity is give them exposure. So when I said to give them exposure, maybe an expert talk need to be organized by the subject expert, maybe industrial visit, field visit, or industrial internship, so that student have a chance to see, student have a chance to observe what is actually happening in the world of work or in the environment, and how they can find out the solutions of the problems at hand. So once the students start thinking, that kind of environment help us to develop creative ability among our students. So do not always spoon feed information among student population. Allow them to work, engage them in different activities, so that while working on those particular activity, they start thinking about that information and try to find out the more advanced solutions maybe over the period of time. And what kind of environment that is going to restrict creativity? When the teacher is not allowing the student to ask questions. If out of the blue one student is asking a very pertinent, appropriate, but a unique question that the answer is not with the faculty, and faculty snub that student to not ask
kind of a question, that is again the restricted environment where the creativity cannot be developed. If the student is only focusing upon the content information, he or she is not taking part in any other extracurricular activity, again then the generation of flow of idea may be restricted. So when we said creativity can be enhanced by training, it means we need to create an environment where students can think upon the information, process information, interact with each other, generate number of ideas, validation of ideas need to be there in that particular environment. Ultimately, we will be able to train an individual in terms of creativity. The third major factor that we need to consider is personality of the student. So when we said the personality of the student, it focusing on the personal ability that characterize a creative person. So when it comes to the creative person, as per literature it is said, the creative personalities may be very moody, so they may be shy at one point of time and they may be very introvert at one point of time. But at the same time, if one is shy or introvert, it doesn't mean that individual is not able to create something new. That individual may be self-analyzing about information, about the problem, and they can also come up with a very good kind of solution. If one is extrovert, that individual is able to generate or collect a number of ideas from the environment, and with the help of good interpersonal relationship, he or she is able to develop over the period of time. They can also work well in different team-based and group-based activities. So personality also plays an important role. Some individuals are extrinsically motivated, some individuals are intrinsically motivated. Individuals who are intrinsically motivated, constantly working on the problem. So they must be able to find out solutions of the problem by collecting information. The fourth major parameter that we need to consider is process. So focusing on how creative solutions are produced. So there are two different type of thinking processes that we are going to cover in the next slides to come. So when it comes to focus on the creative solution, one thing is clear that that individual needs to collect information first. After developing the knowledge pool only, we will be able to find out many creative solutions for the given problem. So these are the four different parameters on the basis of which we can say that yes, it is possible for us to develop creativity among the student population if we are able to create such kind of environment at institute level. So for this, we need to define that what kind of product we are demanding from our student, how we are going to define those products. Those products must be defined with the help of different learning outcomes, that is designed by the teacher. So when we are designing learning outcomes, the focus is not only on the lower order thinking skill, but at the same time, evaluation, synthesis, creation, such kind of activity also need to be part of the classroom environment. So as a teacher, I need to define what can be the probable products of my subject, what kind of environment I'm going to create. If it is a two-way communication happening all the time in a classroom, it means we are encouraging the development of creativity in our surroundings. Personality, as a teacher, I need to identify the personality traits of my class student, and as per their ability, I need to assign or I need to add a diverse number of activities in a classroom environment. Once as a teacher, I am able to develop the knowledge pool of my students, then only my students are able to find out many alternative solutions of the given problem. So when it comes to the creativity in engineering, it is the ability to transcend ideas, rules, patterns, relationship, or the like, and to create meaningful new ideas, forms, methods, and interpretation. So my students are not developing theories. My students are not devising new principles or facts. Very principles, facts are already available. My students are making meaning out of that. So they are able to create meaningful new ideas, forms, methods, and interpretation from the information that is already available with them. Say, for example, a student in the branch of civil engineering, if he or she is able to design a bridge, maybe a prototype type model in the subject of structural engineering, it means that student is able to develop his or her potential up to the level of creation. If my student is able to design a program in the branch of computer science and engineering, able to identify different errors, able to correct those errors, it means that student is also carrying a creative ability with him or her. If my student is able to apply the theorems that he or she learned in the subject of mathematics later on for their branch of specialization, it means we are able to develop the creative ability of that particular candidate. So, for a student population, the basic information, or we can say the fundamental information, is already available. How they are creating meaning out of that information, how they are creating new ideas, new forms, new methods, and new interpretation from that information. If my students are able to do so, we will consider that student population as a creative population. So when it comes to the creativity, it's being said in academic institution, when I said unique project or a creative project. So what we mean by unique and a creative project? That first we need to define. So when it comes to creativity, it always involves combination of originality as well as task appropriateness. So as an engineer, when I'm working for the benefit of the society. So our major role is to serve the society. So whatever product, whatever process we are finding out, that process, that product must be used by the large segment of the society. At the same time, it must following all the dimensions of task appropriateness. So for example, if I'm synthesizing a material as a chemical engineer, I need to put in my focus that this particular material later on, when it is used in different application, this material will not harm the environment. So I'm not restricting myself only up to synthesization of material, but while synthesizing, I need to consider that the environmental impact after uses of this particular material, what it may be. So accordingly, we need to design that kind of a material. So in engineering education, when we talk about creativity, it is a combination. I'm doing something new, but at the same time, I'm following all kind of safety precautions that need to be taken care of for the living and non-living biota. So that things need to be considered when we are evaluating creativity or when we want to develop creativity among student population. But this is not an easy task. This combination may seem very contradictory. So there are three major questions that we need to answer when we are defining creativity for our student population. The very first one is, how can something be original and at the same time conform to a set of task requirements? So may I ask one question to all of you? Yes, may I ask one question to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you very much, ma'am. So, for example, the group of the students in your class comes with a very unique project idea. And as a supervisor, you know that it is not possible for the group of the student to complete that project on time. So, as per the Bloom's taxonomy, when we were discussing about the learning outcome, it is being said that we must need to develop higher order thinking skills among students. And today, if my students want to work on a very unique kind of a project, and I know that they are not able to complete on time, what will be my course of action as a faculty? Or what will be your course of action as a faculty?
Dear participants, kindly confirm, am I clearly audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Aruna ma'am.
Yes,
So
ma'am. You
my
are
question
audible.
to you all, thank you, sir. So my question to you all was, say the group of the students come to you for a project assignment, and that project is very unique by nature. But as a supervisor, at the same time, you know that it is not possible for the group of students to complete that project on time. What will be your course of action then?
Ma'am, if students are not able to complete the course on time, then definitely, first of all, we will discuss the reason because of which they are not able to complete course. And if I feel that the reason is genuine, then I will have to extend the date of time.
Okay. Any another participant who would like to add?
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, suppose that project extends before your submission, mark sheet submission. Okay, then we can allow it because there is a certain time period between submission of student and mark sheet filling. We generally give just 8 days or 10 days deadline before the students. If that project needs that much of time, then it can be extended for that particular idea, since it is innovative and unique, and if it is applicable for society in a good way, then the time can be extended.
Thank
But
you very
that
much,
too
ma'am. Yes.
up to the limit of mark sheet submission, because we are again having deadline to submit the mark sheet.
So thank you very much, ma'am. That is what is it is written on the PowerPoint slide, that creativity involves combination of originality and task appropriateness when we talk about creativity for student population. So when we have academic guidelines, when we have academic calendar available with us, and we want our student to develop their creative potential at department level, we need to consider up to what extent my student is able to solve the unique problem at hand. If for a group of students it is not, the idea is innovative, the idea is very valid, but within the 6 months time period it is not possible for the student to complete on time, so maybe at departmental level we need to take decision that two group of students will work together for the given idea. They will distribute the activities among themselves, and both the group will be able to complete their project on time, and department is allowing such kind of activity to the student. If it is not possible, the second option may be the group of the student will work on that particular project, and the departmental team or the faculty supervisor will define the limitations of that particular project, that if there are two different objectives, if the group of the student is able to solve one objective in a given semester, the project may be extended for the next semester also for another set of students for whom these students will act as a mentor. So if students are doing something new with a very unique idea, and at the same time, we need to consider our academic conditions also, that is task appropriateness, there are certain decisions that need to be uh, made by the departmental faculty. So how can something be original and at the same time conform to a set of task requirement? Say for example, my students are designing something new, or my students are designing a material or a product which require a longer amount of time. So I'm not restricting my group of students to not to work on that particular activity. I maybe add a manpower, or I may extend the project for the next semester students also with the help of this particular group student. So when it comes to the development of the higher order thinking skills, specifically the creative ability among students, there is certain policies that need to be designed at institute level. So when we said excellence level, and for example you are going to evaluate creativity in terms of excellence, so this particular scale need to be very carefully defined at institute level, that for this set of student or for this level of student, what we mean by excellence ability in terms of creativity. Is it the prototype model that we are demanding? Is it the working model that we are demanding? Or my student, if they are able to define the concept in a simplest form, for us that is a excellent creative potential shown by our student. So these are the three different questions that we need to answer before we want to develop such kind of abilities among our student population. Otherwise, what happened, if these criteria is not been defined and student knows that within the 3-month time period or within 6 months of time period I need to submit this assignment to the faculty, they will perform or they will select the routine kind of the problem and able to complete their activities on time as per the demand of the academic calendar. Another major myth that is there in our environment is that we are not creative. I'm not creative. But as per the literature on creativity, it is clearly defined that all are creative to some extent. And there is a model given by Kaufman in 2009 that is considered as 4C model of creativity. In this particular model, he divided the level of creativity into 4 different sets. So we, as a teacher, I need to define that up to what extent the creative ability is available in my class, and for an individual, how I can gradually improve upon with the help of formal training from mini C level up to little C or up to pro C level. So when we said mini C level, so one student entered into our institute, their exposure is not for the technical education, they are from the school level institutions, or maybe few of the students from diploma level institution. It means they do not carry much kind of experiences with them in terms of technology uses or core technical area. Changing mini C level means there must be transformative learning activities happening all the time in a class. With the help of experiential learning, we are giving experiences and exposure to our student population. And when the teacher is designing activities where students need to think upon that information, they become more mindful for that particular information. Only then it is possible for us to enhance their level from mini C up to little C level. So at the very first stage, when it comes to the development of the creativity, it is the teacher who is going to define that up to what extent or what level of students available with me in my class and what kind of learning experiences we need to create so that we can transform their thinking process, and we can add on number of experiences in their formal education. So it will change our understanding about the things. The second major level is the little C level. There may be students in your class who are creative up to this particular level. So they are able to think creatively and they are able to take an appropriate action to solve the problem at hand. So they are the people who are the people who define their role models by their own, and they want to act like them. So that is why they are constantly progressively working towards their assignments or activities and able to develop their creative thinking ability. Pro C level, over the period of time, when the student is able to cater experiences and exposure, the student become master of that particular area. So when I said master, it is not that the level of the student become as the level of the faculty or any expert of that area, but with the help of formal training, maybe after first and second year, in a third semester, student is able to act more creatively because the knowledge pool related to that branch of specialization is already developed. The institution already provided training in terms of psychomotor ability and affective domain. So with the help of the training, the student is able to interact with experienced people, the student is able to work in a team within the organization or if any community that is developed at institute level. So it has an impact on the organization, field, system of practice, and also on the market. So when I said also on the market, say for example, in various engineering institutions, when their job placement organization came, students become more active, they become more vigilant, and they start practicing different things. So those practices, those interaction help them to absorb in the word of the work. So that will happen only with the help of experience and exposure. So up to Pro C level, students are able to perform certain creative acts of the expert. So they are imitating the behavior of their role models or the experts of that branch of specialization. But at institute level, there may, or at large, there are very few individuals who are able to develop themselves up to the level of big C. So that require a constant motivation and passion. So if one is passionate about their habits or activities, only then that individual is able to do something extraordinary in the field of specialization. So the big C level of creativity or student with such kind of a passion and ability able to impact the society, the culture, or the work environment. So these are the four different levels of creativity, on the basis of which we can differentiate ourselves and our student population. Some may be creative up to the level of mini C. There may be one student in your class or in your institute who is able to develop the level up to big C. But yes, up to some extent, all the students are creative by nature. It is the teacher who is going to define the abilities of the student in terms of this um, activity. So now comes to, when it comes to the components of the creativity, what are the different things that we need to consider so that we can enhance creative potential of other individuals. So the very first thing that we need to have is expertise in that particular area. So expertise is the knowledge in many forms of technical, procedural, and intellectual. So some up to some extent the IQ ability need to be there of the student. Only then that student is able to understand the content fully. The psychomotor skill need to be developed among students, and the procedural skill, that how we need to proceed and what kind of the processes and steps need to be followed to perform the activity at hand. This will happen with the help of development of a knowledge pool. So there may be 36 subjects that given in the curriculum, and all the subjects are interrelated with each other. The objective, and if the student want to create something new in their formal education, they must need to have information about all the subjects, and they must be able to develop all the psychomotor skills that are essential for that branch of specialization. So the very first thing as a faculty that we need to consider is the expertise need to be developed among student population. The second major factor is motivation. So in this course also, on the last day, Friday, the very first session will be on motivating student. So when it comes to motivation, as a teacher, we also need to act as a motivational speaker. So there may be two different class environment. Once the teacher, in one environment, the teacher is developing curiosity among student population related to the subject matter, and the students become intrinsically motivated. They want to do something. They want to increase their creative performance. And this type of creativity, this type of motivation has an positive impact on the spontaneity and depth of processing the information. If I'm mindful for my subject, I will go deeper into that. When I go deeper into that, I collect more advanced information related to that particular subject. So I have a whole information. I can apply that whole information to solve a problem, and there may be n number of solutions I am able to identify because I am passionate about that particular problem. I'm intrinsically motivated about that problem to solve. The second type of motivation that may be created by the teacher in a class is the environment of reward. Reward may be positive, reward may be negative. So when I said reward is positive, so teacher is using appreciative word for the student. Teacher is giving good grade or good marks to the student. On the answer script, the teaching is writing the very positive kind of comments for the student. So that is extrinsic motivated. Just for the sake of reward, the students are working for that particular activity. Reward can also be in terms of flexibility of time. Reward can also be in terms of giving relaxation to that particular student in terms of attendance of the classes. So reward can be of any nature, decided by the department or by the individual faculty, and they are considered as extrinsic motivators. So if an individual is extrinsically motivated, he or she will work up to the point when the rewards are available. If rewards are not available, they will not be able to perform something more creatively. So intrinsic motivation is the good thing. As a faculty, we need to develop curiosity about the subject matter along with the engagement of the student. There must be a passion developed among student population related to the subject. The third major factor of creativity is the creative thinking ability. So creative thinking ability refers to how flexibly and imaginatively the people approach problem and task. So sometimes the teacher need to give ill structured problem to the student. Rather than defining the whole structure, the teacher need to give the ill structured problems to the student. Need to reframe that problem. Student need to divide that problem into number of subparts, and once the problem is understood by the student, it is possible for the student to devise two different kind of thinking pattern and use their ability to solve a problem. So the two type of thinking that is essential for us to develop at institute level is, the very first one is the convergent thinking skill. So convergent thinking skill is the intellectual ability to think of many original, diverse and elaborative ideas. When it comes to the divergent think, the process of generating multiple related ideas for a given topic or for a solution of a problem. So what kind of thinking is more prevalent in our institutes? Yes, both the abilities are required. Specifically, when we talk about creativity in engineering education, there are many problems who are having only a one fixed solution. Say my student is working for a numerical problem, any derivation, any concept, any principle. So those principles, theories, facts, numerical analysis have a single fixed solution available. So student will be able to identify the solution only if he or she think convergently. So from the knowledge pool, they need to pick up the right answer and give or frame the answer for that particular problem. Divergent think for the core technical problems that are more complex by nature. For that, the student need to think divergently. So multiple solutions, divergent thinking, fixed solution, convergent thinking. So at institute level, we need to develop both kind of thinking skills among student population. So I hope it is clear to all of you. Yes, any member, if you have any question.
No questions, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir. So in the last of this particular presentation, we are going to discuss the creative process. So how it works, how we are able to develop creative potential among student population. This process is divided into four different categories. The very first one is the preparation process. Now from the group, can anybody tell me how we can prepare our students in this first step, that is the preparation process? How we can develop creativity, how we can prepare our students to be more creative at institute level. Yes, any member?
Can you please repeat it, ma'am?
How can we prepare our students to be more creative at institute level? So what will be the preparation process that we need to follow at institute level?
More creative, it?
More creative at institute levels.
We can motivate students. We can give the fact that how these things are needed, not only for their project, but also for society. What is the need? What is important in it? And what are the lacunas right now society is having, and how they can contribute for this process.
Thank you very much, Aruna ma'am. As rightly added by ma'am, one of the component is motivating the student. So preparation means in a preparation process, initially we need to develop the knowledge pool. So when it comes to finding out an answer of a problem, we always go to our knowledge pool. And from that knowledge pool only, we try to identify the answer. Say, as a chemical engineer, my way of thinking may be different as an electronic engineer or as an uh, faculty from the other branches of science. Your way of thinking, the thinking pattern is developed. Say, a glass of water in front of me. For you, it may be a glass of water. For me, it may be the number of processes that is happening, and I'm thinking about that glass of water. So it may be in terms of evaporation, condensation, precipitation. I'm thinking that why the level of the water is like this. If some coloring agent is there, what need to be the level of the water. So it is that my thinking pattern is developed over the period of time with the help of my formal education. For another engineering branches, it may be simply a glass of water. For a chemical engineer, he might be thinking about different kind of processes that is happening within that glass of water. So it means in a preparation process, the thinkers formulate the problem. We, after reading a problem, we all redefine the problem in our own senses. So that is why in a creative process, the first thing that we need to consider is the collection of the facts and materials that are necessary for finding the new solution. So what kind of information is desirable? What kind of resources need to be there to solve a problem at hand? Many times the problem cannot be solved even after days, weeks, or months of concentrated effort, and we are not able to solve the problem. So in a preparation phase, we are just collecting information. We are reframing, redefining that problem in our own sense. Generation process. Now, in the first step, I have collected all kind of information. I know all kind of material that is available with me or resources that is available with me. Now I'm trying to interrelate the different association or relationship between ideas and concept. What kind of ideas and concept I'm thinking about? Those ideas and concepts that are directly related with the problem. So we are generating more valid ideas after collecting factful information. Incubation means during this period, some of the ideas that are valid or not valid are interfering with the solution tend to fade. And sometimes we, after working for a problem for a long period, we deviate that from that particular problem, and we consider that now I'm not going to think about that particular problem, or I'm not going to solve that problem at hand. So but at that time also my subconscious mind is constantly working on that particular problem. For example, in the past, the discovery of benzene ring, while sleeping he is able to find out the structure of the benzene ring. It means consciously he is not working, but subconsciously the mind was thinking about that particular problem. The knowledge pool is already developed, the material resources are available. I know it can be possible, only then I'm subconsciously thinking about that particular problem. So once and while a valid solution is generated in the mind of the individual, that phase in terms of creativity is considered as incubation phase, and ultimately we will be able to find out the solution, and that is the eureka moment. So when connections automatically subconsciously collide and then reach to the threshold of the consciousness. Now tell me, is it possible for us to find out these kind of processes in institute level? After elimination, once the solution is able to once we are able to find out the solution, we validate that whether this particular solution is right or whether this particular solution is wrong. And last stage, we will evaluate the whole process and implement the solution effectively. That is why it is being said in your classes there must be mindful pauses by the faculty. So when I'm saying when I'm asking question, I need to give some time to my learners to think upon that information. Once they are able to collect that information, they are framing answers in their mind, they are evaluating their own answer and give me the solution. That time period is when my learners are thinking about that problem at hand. So creative process is happening all around us up to some extent. When we are asking questions, students are thinking about that information. In a laboratory environment also, students are working hard to complete an assignment given by the faculty. When you give a very unique numerical kind of a problem that is not available on internet resources, not available on the textbook, the student need to reframe that particular problem and able to solve a problem. Sometimes when the teacher is giving a problem, all the standard measures to solve a problem is not given. Many a times you heard in an examination hall that in this particular numerical problem, we need to have a standard value. We need to have a chart or a graph or a data set. So when I said standard value, as a master level student or as a doctorate level student, I need to have information about that standard value. So if I'm saying standard value, it means that value must be known to me. So when the students become more mindful for their knowledge, more precisely they collect information about the subject matter, they will be able to solve problems at hand. So ill-structured problem, when the teacher is giving to the class student, those ill-structured problem help the student to think beyond their uh, problem. They will able to redefine, restructure problem, and there may be for a one problem, there are multiple solution that is being created by your class student. But for this, teacher need to design classes in such a way where students are creating doubts, teacher is there to solve the doubts of the student. So this is the kind of the creative process that we need to follow at institute level in our classroom environment. So there are certain barriers to creativity also that we are going to discuss in some another session during this course. So at the last, the time available with me is 11:10. At the last, I need to consider that when it comes to the development of the creative ability among student population, first we need to be sensitive enough. There must be educated guesses happening all the time in a class. We need to give problem that the student need to restructure before solving them. Fluency need to be developed in a classroom environment. So there may be attribute listing, there may be checklist used by the teacher in a class, there may be brainstorming sessions that is designed by the teacher one or two times within a semester. So these kind of activities or these kind of teaching strategies help us to develop fluency about that particular subject matter. When the teacher is using role play, when the teacher is using case study method of teaching, all these teaching strategies not only covering the syllabus or the curriculum, but at the same time we are able to generate ideas in a class, we are able to validate those ideas and able to express those ideas to the student. Ultimately we are not only working on the technical ability of the student, but at the same time we are developing their thinking capability. The fifth major factor that need to be there, the change of the focus. The classroom environment must be flexible enough. It means sometimes the categories of responses collected by the teacher in a class is spontaneous enough that the teacher need to give extra time and effort to validate those responsive. A different kind of environment need to be given to the student so that they can adapt, they can observe their environment. So nobody restraining me not to take a theory class in a laboratory environment. So when I'm talking about the working principle of a machinery, rather than engaging that class in a confined classroom, I can take my class students to the laboratory environment where machine is actual in working condition. And along with that, I'm going to explain step by step that how this machine is actually working. So my students become more mindful, my students become more adapted to that particular environment. So at the end, I want to give one example that how it is possible for us to give a problem restructuring ability, develop problem restructuring ability among student population. I hope everybody heard or read the story of Thirsty Crow.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So Crow was basically in this particular story, the first step that is taken care by that particular crow is the restructure the problem. Problem kya thi? He was thirsty. What he does? He reframed that particular problem, developed his knowledge pool, collect all the pebbles, put those pebbles in the pitch, and then water level rose and crow drank that water and overcome that particular problem. If he can do, we can also provide opportunity to our students by giving such kind of a problem that they need to restructure, they need to resolve. But yes, at the end, I would like to say that when it comes to the development of creative ability among student population, maybe we need to have longer sessions. In a 45-minute, when the teacher is just focusing on the curriculum, maybe the laboratory environment or the workshop practices, or by organizing certain extra curricular activities for the student, we can develop the creative potential of our students. So we need to put some extra effort. We are not using the same textbook problems as an assignment or tutorial sheets for our student. We need to design something new. Only then our students are able to apply the learned concepts in to solve those problems. Third factor, or the third point that I need to consider, is everybody is creative up to some extent. Some may be up to the level of excellence, some may be up to the level of average only, but we need to motivate our students to involve more in the subject matter so that they are able to think upon that information they have covered in their theory classes. But at the same time, their levels are not same. It is not possible for all the students to gain the level of excellence as is defined by the scale of that particular faculty. But constantly we need to motivate them so that they are engaged in the process of learning. So this is all from my side. If you have any question, you are requested to kindly unmute and ask. After that, I will assign one activity to all of you.